there is speculation that he cheated. Is that true?
I wouldn't, okay, not physically.
Okay.
As far, I don't think. And I don't blame him for anything, because at the time when things started happening, I wasn't the best person in a relationship because I was struggling so much. And I know how it feels to, want attention from other people when you're not getting it by the person that you're with. And, there's just a few things that I wasn't too happy about, and that made me very insecure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When and why did you begin to struggle with your mental health?
So I started going to therapy when I was 6. I was diagnosed with anxiety, and I think that there were some signs that my parents picked up on that they were like, whoa. Like, I don't know why she's freaking out. Like, I would get attached to certain things and freak out if I didn't have them on me, or I didn't have them around. And then I think I had to go on a plane for the first time, and my reaction to that was just a telltale sign that I needed to go get treatment. So so I started going to therapy when I was 6, and doing family therapy as well, because there was custody battles and stuff like that. My parents were never together, but for the beginning of my life, they tried living together, and then that caused a lot of stress for me. Which living at home was just hard for me. And when I was 14, which was I was a sophomore in high school. I had, and it was shortly after I got my last concussion. I spiraled, and I guess the trauma that my brain had just exacerbated all of my mental health, and everything just went terrible. I developed really bad ADHD, and I couldn't go to school because I couldn't read more than 2 sentences without vomiting. I had to go to ocular and vestibular therapy to learn how to run, or balance on one foot, and catch balls, and how to track my eyes, because they were it was really bad. And because of my ADHD, getting really bad because of my brain injury, I struggled a lot mentally, and that's when I had my first actual suicide attempt, and I was hospitalized for it. So that was pretty rough.
Did your family find you, or how did they find out?
Yeah, I overdosed on a medication that I was prescribed to aid my concussion, and the pain that came with it, and my migraines and all that stuff. And I was at my dad's house at the time, and I think he was making dinner, and I was upstairs in my room, and he kept calling me down for dinner, and I guess I wasn't answering. And I don't remember much. All I remember was going in the bathroom, and I had an old glass cup that was empty in my room, and I was just you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna do it now. I was very impulsive because of my ADHD, and I was so deeply depressed. And I've always dealt with having such intense and deep feelings where I would just I was so depressed, and like I would like cry and I couldn't stop crying, and I'd get like so mad and angry and like mean, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And when it got worse because of my concussions, like I felt like I was insane and that there was no getting better and I was done, and I felt like I was a burden like to my family, and you know, I caused like so much pain because of how I was mentally. And so I went to a bathroom and filled it up with sink water, and I overdosed. And I just remember while it was like kicking in, I sat down and I wrote everyone notes, and I think I just like passed out on the floor, and my dad found me and just like carried my limp body and called 911. And I just remember there was a hospital that was like so close to the house, and I was like in and out of like consciousness, and like I just remember his voice echoing, you know. I didn't really know what was going on, and he was like on the phone with the ambulance, like freaking out and like asking how fast that they could come and all this stuff. And he was like, you know, I'm just gonna put her in my car and just like drive to the nearest hospital. And they were like telling him not to do it, and so he was like trying to drive to meet them closer because they wouldn't come. And I just remember them like dragging me out of his car just to put me in the back seat. And then I vividly remember like my mom like yelling at me while the ambulance doors was closing while I'm on like the stretcher, and I just like woke up in the hospital. But I think the scariest and like most traumatizing thing for me was my little brother witnessing it and him just like, you know, crying. And I felt like I just like scarred him for life, almost seeing that, and him just being like, is Sissy okay? Like, what's wrong with Sissy? Like freaking out. And it just, yeah.
How did you and your whole family like begin to try to just help you recover and try to move forward with life?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I think that my parents were more like mad at me than anything, which was very hard for me to deal with because I was just like in so much pain, you know, like how, and I think that like I just wanted like, I think that was a moment where I just wanted to be loved the most, and supported. And I've thought about death and suicide since I was like 10. And so, you know, being in a hospital and not knowing, like I was too young to know like what actually like would happen and what would happen. And I was getting my blood work done like all the time, like all throughout the night. Like I was like on IVs and all this stuff. I had like nurses and like officers that would like, I was on suicide watch, you know. I couldn't pee without people following me. I couldn't do anything. And it sucked. And then I thought that like once I got better, I could go home. And all I wanted was to go home.
So did you end up having to go away?
Yeah. They put me on a stretcher, I think like 3 days later, when a bed opened up out of place, and I arrived at a psych ward. I was obviously in the pediatric, you know, because I was 14. So it was like, you know, kids around my age. And I was very shy and timid and scared and embarrassed. And I didn't want to talk to anyone. Like, I don't want to like open up to anyone. Like when they would have group, it's like, no way I'm sharing like my story or like why I'm here, anything like that. And then I learned that there is a point system and you have to in order to get out. And I was on level 1, and you got to be on level 4 to even get considered to leave. And yeah, and that was scary too because my parents also placed me on phone protocol. So you don't have phones. And phone protocol is when you can't even use the payphone to call anyone. You don't get calls, you can't. So I was completely like isolated and alone, like in that spot. And it was traumatizing. But then as soon as I got comfortable in there, and like started making friends, like it was like fun. And then you start feeling like, you know, I felt like I belonged, you know, for the first time.
If you could like say something to that 14-year-old girl now where you're at, like what would you say to yourself?
Oh my God, thank God she was in there, because I mean I wouldn't be where I am now. Yeah, And I just felt so like hopeless at that point because I couldn't really see like a future after getting out of there.
At 18, you got a diagnosis for borderline personality disorder. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. So borderline personality disorder is very tricky, and it's different for everyone that has it because it's basically a self-taught disorder that is developed from childhood trauma. And it's not like a chemical imbalance, which I have other, my anxiety and like depression, all that stuff, that is, but this isn't because it's just habits and almost like defense mechanisms that you've developed from trauma growing up, and it just adapts your entire personality. And there's a lot of things that come into play with like, very harsh mood swings, and then you get very intense like manic episodes, and identity problems like with self-identity, and abandonment issues, and the list can go on, but it is such one of the most like painful mental health illnesses because of how intense and severe your emotions become when you have it. So say like whenever I feel any sort of sadness, my brain kind of shuts off all of the signals for any other emotion, and I am unable to process or remember what happiness feels like, or that happiness is an emotion at all. So all I feel is sad, and all I can ever feel is sadness, and that there's no escaping it. And it's like it hurts. Like it's like it's so painful mentally that it starts to physically hurt, and you can't really control anything. And that's where I struggle the most, because it makes you act out in ways that isn't you, and you really have to learn how to become very self-aware in order to help yourself.
How did you feel when you got the diagnosis?
Relieved. My mom always thought I had it, but I was previously misdiagnosed with bipolar, and I was like, yeah, okay, maybe, because like, it ran in my family, but I would like look it up and like research, and I was like, this doesn't make sense because it's like not me. And so when I was diagnosed with BPD, it made a lot of sense.
When you said your mom always thought you had it, would she say that to you? Like, how did that affect you?
Yeah, and I also knew that she would bring it up when I would get like evaluations and all this stuff. And I just remember people being like, we can't diagnose her with that because she's under 18. And when I was diagnosed, she told me like I knew it too. But yeah, at first it makes you feel like something's wrong with you. But I've just kind of learned to that, like, at least I know what's wrong.
Yeah. When you talked about the trauma that you endured, can you clarify what you were talking about?
I just dealt with a lot of hard things growing up, and it's just hard for me to talk about it because I don't really want to like throw anyone under the bus, but I had a really rough childhood, and I've it was just really hard for me. But like even like when I got older too, I got trauma from people that weren't just like in my family. Like when it came to like boys, and like I feel like almost every girl now deals with like sexual trauma because people fucking suck. But I just went through a lot of fucking shit that I don't know if I'll ever be like comfortable opening up about it, because like right now I'm trying to, especially in therapy, I'm trying to learn how to detach myself from it and learn that it doesn't really it's not a part of me, and it doesn't make me who I am, and I'm also trying to learn how to forgive. So Yeah.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I think so many women, it's like, it's an ongoing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about social media, and obviously with your mental health, like, has anyone ever suggested that you step away from social to preserve your well-being?
Oh my God, yes. I've gone on a lot of breaks. The problem is that like I'm a teenage girl and I don't want to get off social media, and I also care too much about what people say. And so even though I know it's going to hurt me from reading comments online and scrolling until I find a negative one, because that's what I do for some reason, I'll just keep scrolling until I see a hate comment. And then I'll keep scrolling until I see more. But it's like, I don't know, I just have a problem, and you know, my team suggests it all the time, and even like my friends, and I know it's best for me, but I feel like sometimes I'll freak out more if I don't know what's being said about me. So it's a hard thing.
In June of this year, you lost your close friend and fellow TikTok star, Cooper Noriega.
Yeah.
He lost his life. First of all, I just want to say I'm so sorry. In what ways has losing your best friend affected your life?
I feel like this was just something that I couldn't really ever comprehend, and you know, I feel like I don't really have like close family. I'm not that close with my family, and I'm just like alone out here, and like all I really had was Cooper, and he was like a brother to me, and my best friend ever, like twin flame. Like I believe that you have like multiple soulmates in your life, and I feel like he was like my platonic soulmate, like 100%, like me, as you know, a boy. And I never had anyone understand me the way that he did. So this kid struggled, you know, just as much as I did, maybe even more. And I knew that. And I felt like as long as I knew him, it was an ongoing battle to keep him here, and to make sure that he was safe. And drug addiction is just something that's so scary. And I felt like everyone just did as much as they could, but I never thought that that day would ever come. And I was, you know, it just sucked, because I just like remember like waking up with like from a text from him that day, and I didn't want to believe it. Like I couldn't. I lost myself. Like I lost myself completely. Like I was destroyed, because there was never a thought in my brain that I would ever have to live a single day without him. You know, I never thought that there would be a day where I didn't even text him, you know, or not see him. And up until that point too, like we were spending every day with each other, like, so and then I think, like, you know, it just got really hard, and it was just like a very big, like, tragic thing for everyone, very unexpected. I think, you know, we all knew that he was struggling a lot more than before, but I didn't ever think that he would, you know, leave. I haven't really like told anyone this, but like we openly talked about, you know, how much we struggled here on this earth in our mental health, so much. You know, we both, like, when we were, you know, suicidal or, you know, struggled with anything like that, it was like each other that like we would like, you know, have to like make us like feel like we need to be here. And we were like this, and so it's like if one of us was going out, like we were going out together. That's just like, that's how it was in my head.
Right.
And so when he was gone, it was just like, I don't know how I could like live. It was very hard.
How has the grieving process been for you?
I mean, like, for the first like week, I wasn't on my phone. My phone was shut off. It was like, you know, kind of like mute at some points. Dying, like on suicide watch. It was terrible. Grieving is such a crazy thing, and I dealt with the, you know, losing people in my life, but never the closest or the only person that I had. And it's just something that you can't really fathom until you're in it. And I didn't know what I was doing, and I was struggling so much already because I just went through like a breakup, and so it was just like it was just really weird for me. It felt like my entire life just like flipped upside down, and I was just like I was just like falling apart. And I was grieving and trying to deal with all my emotions alone, because that's the only way I knew how to, and I didn't really want to talk about it with anyone because it made it more real to me. And it was just like really hard for me to like just open up about, so I was dealing with it alone. And at the same time too, like my best friend Sabrina, I was just trying to be strong for her and strong for, you know, his family and like everyone, that I was just dealing with everything by myself, and it ate me alive. And that's why I ended up getting admitted actually into mental hospital, and the first one since I've been in, like since like when I was 14. So it's pretty scary.
Did you go into the treatment center because of everything and that happened with Cooper?
I just broke. I lost control fully, and I had a suicide attempt. I was taking Xanax for my anxiety and to like fly and all that stuff, so I was on that. And when you take an excessive amount of that, which I never had before, it just like turns you into someone that you're not. And I just like went into my car, I think, and I don't remember anything, but from what I was told, I was planning on driving off of a cliff. Well, I overdosed, and I think as soon as I started backing out, Bree and Sabrina just like pulled up, like right by my car, and they got me to get out and all that stuff. And like the next day, I just like, I think, opened up and was like kind of like vulnerable and honest for the first time, and I just like cried, and I was like, I'm so scared. And we just called the ambulance, and I got help.
And thank God you're here. Again, it's kind of like you've become so open that I feel like you've completely knocked all the shame away from just talking about these things, that people would look at someone and maybe think a different way even a couple years ago. What are you doing to try to find a reason to live right now?
It puts you in a perspective that's so interesting, because you just realize how much you've taken for granted. The fresh air and walking on the ground is just so, and being outside is just so like comforting and like amazing, that I was excited that I got, a second chance. And I just convinced myself, and especially after Cooper, like I've just gotten like, I've developed so much like faith, and I've become religious out of nowhere, that I was just like, God must want me here for a reason. I was like, there's no way that like I'm just not gone yet. So I have to do something. And I just also realized that like I just have such strong sympathy for everyone that struggles mentally and goes through hard times, that like I don't want to leave at all, because I want to be here in order to like make an impact for those struggling. And I feel like I still have just like so much to do, and I want to live for Cooper. And I just see life so differently now, and I feel like now And the first time in forever, I've been open to like getting help seriously. And I've just like gone through waves where I hit rock bottom, and then I get help, and then as soon as I start feeling good again, like I stop because I think I'm fine. But it's like not true, and I just realized it's all about like maintenance and like the upkeep, and that like I just have to continue going. And so yeah, and I've also been like so anti-med that like now I'm like on a mood stabilizer, which is like I feel like it's working.
That's like another thing I commend you for. There's so much stigma around medication, and I think like you just saying like everyone, it's almost like therapy. It's like you can't be told to do something until you're ready to do it. And
yeah,
I also think I would just like to say that you said, maybe you can help people. I feel like you're really doing that through your music. And I think it's really cool that you are talking about mental health. And I am so excited for your album to come out because I am a huge fan of your music. Talk to me about your album, the process, the songs, like tell me everything.
Yeah, my album's called Young Forever, and I haven't really been religious, but Cooper has really helped me, find God and like anything like that. But at the time, and it's just like it's weird after that, it's about like heaven, like there's a lot of like things that come into play with faith and like religion with my album. But at the time it was like I was living in hell when I wrote my album, that I fantasized about heaven so much that that's what it was about. And now like with it's just like really weird. And I like wrote Die First about such a special song for me, and at the time it was like about my mom and Cooper, but it never out like I never like publicly said that it was about Cooper because I didn't want to think about it, but the people closest around me knew, and Cooper knew.
Do you think you're gonna ever be able to perform it?
Yeah, I mean, I have to soon, and I'm gonna make it a special moment because it has to be, but I can't really imagine me performing it without like choking up and like bawling my eyes out. But also at this point, it's like if you're a fan of my music and you're a fan of me and you're there, it's like what else do you expect?
That's what I feel like. You can be rest assured that every single person wherever you're singing is gonna help you sing it, because they're gonna know the significance of that song and who it's for, and that is so fucking powerful. How do you feel about being this like new rising artist and having all this exciting success around your talent right now?
It's very surreal for me. I feel like I have like really bad imposter syndrome, so I almost sometimes like detach like me as like Nessa, like from Nessa, and I don't know, I'm just like I get so overwhelmed with the amount of love and support, but also it's like I couldn't really care less if like one person listens to my song or like 1 million, so it's like as long as like there's one person out there that relates, but it's just so unreal to think about, and I'm just like really excited because this is like my dream.
I can't thank you enough for coming on, Nessa. I've had the pleasure of listening to your music and watching you on social media, but I can genuinely say, sitting down with you, you are such a unique, kind soul, and it's really cool to get to sit with you because I truly know you're going to do so many incredible things, and I can't wait to see it because you deserve to be here and you should be here, and I hope you are loved by so many people. So thank you for coming on Call Her Daddy.
Thank you so much. This is so amazing.